Why every U.S. admiral who challenged China in the Pacific eventually backed down. Today, April 30, 2026, the eyes of the world are fixed on the Western Pacific. Admiral Samuel Paparo, commander of United States Indo-Pacific Command, has just completed a classified briefing to the Senate Armed Services Committee that sources describe as the most sobering assessment of American Pacific readiness delivered to Congress since the fall of Saigon. On the surface, it looks like routine testimony. Another admiral in dress blues reading prepared remarks about capability gaps and budget requests. But is this truly a request for resources, or is it the latest chapter in a pattern that has repeated itself across every American flag officer who has been assigned the impossible task of maintaining military dominance over waters that China now controls by weight of geography, industrial capacity, and the relentless accumulation of maritime power? Because the pattern is clear to anyone who cares to read the service records. Every American admiral who has faced China's rise in the Pacific has entered the command believing in American supremacy and exited it advocating for restraint. Every single one. What specific capabilities does China deploy in the Western Pacific that make American carrier operations structurally untenable within the first island chain? Why have 3 consecutive Indo-Pacific commanders privately advocated against provocative freedom of navigation operations that their predecessors conducted routinely? What does the classified wargaming data, the data that these admirals see and that the public does not, actually show about the outcome of a U.S.-China naval conflict in the Taiwan Strait? Stay with us. If you want the analysis that the hearings are designed to avoid, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop your thoughts in the comments. The Western Pacific is no longer the American lake it was during the Cold War. China's People's Liberation Army Navy operates over 370 commissioned warships, the largest fleet on Earth by hull count. But numbers alone do not explain why American admirals back down. Geography explains it. The Taiwan Strait is approximately 180 kilometers wide and approximately 350 kilometers long, situated approximately 8,000 nautical miles from the nearest major American naval base at Pearl Harbor and approximately 180 kilometers from the Chinese mainland. China's military infrastructure along the southeastern coast includes over 40 airfields within operational range of the strait, hundreds of mobile missile launchers carrying DF-21D and DF-26 anti-ship ballistic missiles, shore-based YJ-62 and YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missile batteries, and an integrated air defense network built around the HQ-9B and S-400 systems that creates a layered engagement zone extending over 400 kilometers from the coastline. An American carrier strike group approaching the Taiwan Strait enters this engagement envelope approximately 18 hours before it reaches a position from which its aircraft can conduct operations over the strait. 18 hours inside a kill zone defended by anti-ship ballistic missiles traveling at Mach 10. No admiral who has seen the war game results believes the carrier survives those 18 hours. The DF-21D, designated by NATO as the CSS-5 Mod 4 and universally known as the carrier killer, is the weapon that changed the equation permanently. This medium-range ballistic missile carries a maneuvering re-entry vehicle specifically designed to strike moving naval targets at speeds exceeding Mach 10. Its range of approximately 1,500 kilometers means that any American surface combatant operating within 1,000 nautical miles of the Chinese coast is within the engagement envelope. The maneuvering warhead adjusts its trajectory during terminal descent using onboard radar and satellite data, executing evasive maneuvers that confound the ballistic prediction algorithms on which the Aegis Combat System's intercept solution depends. The DF-26, the extended-range variant known as the Guam Killer, pushes the engagement boundary out to 4,000 kilometers, meaning that even American forces positioned at the second island chain, Guam, the Marianas, are within range. The combined effect of these systems is the creation of an anti-access zone so deep that American carriers would have to operate at distances from which their aircraft cannot reach the Taiwan Strait without aerial refueling that requires tanker aircraft operating within range of Chinese air defense systems, creating a dependency chain that multiplies the vulnerability rather than resolving it. The classified wargame results, described by multiple sources familiar with the exercises, are consistent and devastating. In over 20 major wargame iterations conducted by the Pentagon, RAND Corporation, and the Center for Strategic and International Studies between 2018 and 2025, the United States has lost the opening engagement of a Taiwan conflict in the majority of scenarios. The losses include, depending on the scenario parameters, between 1 and 3 aircraft carriers, between 10 and 20 surface combatants, between 200 and 500 aircraft, and between 5,000 and 20,000 personnel casualties in the first 72 hours. These are not the projections of anti-war activists. These are the conclusions of America's own defense establishment using America's own wargaming infrastructure. The admirals who see these results arrive at a consistent conclusion. The cost of fighting for the Taiwan Strait exceeds the cost of conceding it. And the cost differential widens with every year as China adds capacity and the United States falls further behind in shipbuilding, missile production, and regional basing. In Beijing, China's strategy has been patient and has been executing for over 2 decades. China does not need to defeat the United States Navy in open battle. China needs to make the American position in the Western Pacific so expensive, so risky, and so logistically unsustainable that the United States voluntarily draws back to a defensible line, ceding the first island chain to Chinese maritime dominance. This is the anti-access area denial strategy, and it is the most successful military strategy of the 21st century, measured by cost effectiveness. In Tokyo, Japan is hedging against the possibility of American withdrawal by accelerating its own military buildup. In Canberra, Australia's AUKUS submarine program reflects the same hedging calculus. In Manila, Hanoi, and Jakarta, the nations of Southeast Asia are aligning their diplomatic and economic relationships with China in preparation for a world in which the American military umbrella in the Pacific is thinning. First, the pattern of American admirals backing down is not cowardice. It is rationality. The classified data shows that the cost of a naval confrontation with China in the Western Pacific exceeds any conceivable strategic benefit, and every admiral who sees the data reaches the same conclusion. Second, the carrier-centric model of power projection that has defined American naval strategy since 1945 is structurally obsolete against an adversary with anti-ship ballistic missiles, and no currently planned upgrade, no new ship class, and no expanded missile defense system will close the gap within the next decade. Third, China has won the anti-access competition in the Western Pacific through patient industrial investment rather than military confrontation, producing more ships, more missiles, and more infrastructure every year, while the United States has been consuming its naval capacity in the Middle East and the Red Sea. Fourth, the question is no longer whether the United States can maintain supremacy in the Western Pacific. The question is where the new line of American maritime influence stabilizes: the first island chain, the second island chain, or the mid-Pacific, and what the strategic consequences of each position are for every nation that has built its security on the assumption of permanent American dominance. The old Pacific is dying. The Pacific of unchallenged carrier transits, of admirals who sailed wherever they pleased, of a naval supremacy so complete that it was mistaken for a natural law rather than a temporary condition maintained by extraordinary expenditure. That Pacific is being replaced by a new Pacific, where the most powerful navy on Earth backs down, not because it lacks courage, but because it has read the data and concluded that courage without mathematics is not valor, it is waste. Every admiral who has challenged China in these waters has arrived believing in the myth and departed believing in the math. The math is the message. What do you think? Can the U.S. Navy adapt, or has the Pacific already tipped, Drop your honest answer in the comments. We read every single one. If this analysis sharpened your view, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay sharp.